Hopefully you can hear me okay with the respirator on, but despite my initial impressions, I've also got a fan going. This tool is probably the best. This little attachment from Harbor Freight with the wire wheel, it's knocking most of the stuff down to black. So I'm gonna hit the whole top with that wire wheel, and then I'm gonna use some Evapo Rust. I decided against the muriatic acid just because it's such a harsh acid. I'm gonna use this guy on it. Hopefully that, it's supposed to be safe on your hands and everything else, so hopefully that'll be fine for a lot of this heavy pitting. And then after I do that, Evapo Rust, I'm gonna let that sit for 24 hours and I'm gonna see how it does. Let's mix up a little bit of this. Well, mix, there's nothing to mix. I don't think I'm supposed to shake it before using, but pour, soak, rinse. All right, seems good enough. And this stuff is apparently reusable, so it's supposed to be pretty safe and non-toxic also. So let's just apply this on the car. I've got a fan here because I was sanding or blowing stuff off, so bear with me. But you don't really need to hear me. I'm not saying anything interesting. And we'll just see what this does. I'm gonna keep going, and then I'm gonna leave it on there while I work on taking off some bumper stuff, and I'll get the trim off the front windshield and maybe cut off some of these little clips for the soft top. That's what it looks like with the first coat of that Evapo Rust. I just put it on. I mean, I don't see any difference yet, but I'll let this sit really until tomorrow. It says to rinse with water. I don't know that I want to rinse it with water, so I'm gonna work on taking off some other pieces to get ready for the bodywork. I am impressed with this stuff. It's hard with the glare, but I mean, you can see this stuff's still wet, but I mean, as it dries, it really looks like it did a number on the actual rust. The metal in a pretty good spot down here. I didn't do any sanding on this area. Try to keep the glare off of it, but you know, you can really see, if it focuses, when it dries up, there's almost no orangey material in there. It's just like, you know, dark metal, which is I think the goal here. So I'm gonna let the rest of this stuff keep going. You can see in these areas, it's hard with the glare, but where it's dried up, it's not really orangey at all anymore, so. Man, it's hard to focus. Camera doesn't really work, but that's pretty good. Another area is back here. I mean, I didn't sand anything over here, you know, and that, it's pretty good, I would say. So I'm good with that. I like it. I messed around for a little bit and took off the front bumper pieces while I was waiting for this stuff to dry. Now I'm going to tackle this side, these holes. There's enough metal there. I will just probably cut a couple squares out and then cut some squares out of my spare sheet metal pile and then weld some stuff in here, and that'll pretty much do it. I gotta do that one too, so man, I better get moving. I'm gonna wipe this off with acetone before I burn in any metal. Okay, we have our CAD design cardboard. CAD, cardboard aided design, CAD, you get the deal. I just cut out squares. Basically, I made sure they're gonna cover the holes on my panels on that pillar. I didn't want to do circles because it's just a lot harder to cut out, and what the heck does it matter? I'm welding in new metal. So just big squares everywhere around for everything else, for those holes. And the trickiest one is, of course, by that rear windshield. I had to make this little cardboard guy, and it's folded, and then I cut little slits in it so that it can kind of bend and scrunch in on itself. You'll see how it goes together, but flatten them all back out, and that's what we're gonna trace out and cut out from our piece of metal here. This is 16 gauge, 24 by 24. I bought from Home Depot a while ago. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Just trying to find good areas on my cardboard to fit this stuff. There's that one. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Now the tricky one. Oh, this isn't bad. This isn't bad at all. You can see those red squares. I traced my metal plates over there. I already chopped one out. It fell down in the hole, so I'm going to fish it out with the magnet. Then I'll cut out the other one. I'll get some magnets just to hold these guys in place. I've got a cleared off spot for a ground up there, and then I can weld in my panel. Okay, we boogered up that little guy on there. It was just that tiny piece. I stuck it through to the back and then just welded it straight through. We burned some holes over here because the metal is so porous with all the rust. I've got this like towing magnet that's holding this guy pretty flush there, and my yeah, I didn't do a great job of cutting it out. I've got some gaps, so I'm gonna try to fill it. We'll see where it goes, and I'll play with the welder a bit, but that's how I'm doing this. Ground clip, got a magnet that's holding this guy pretty flush, and then I'll just tack it in, then move the magnet, and weld the rest in. Okay, just got done putting this one in. Now, originally, the settings on this Hobart handler that I was using, this 140, I was using 2 and 40 like it says for 16 gauge, but the factory stuff's probably a bit thinner, so I dropped it down to like 1 and 4, 1 on the voltage and 4 on the wire speed. So just play around with your stuff. I was able to close up this hole perfectly, and I got a lot better success, or a lot better results by increasing the speed of the wire and lowering the voltage for the welder, and I was able to pretty much go along there. Now when you're doing really thin sheet metal, I mean, you could probably tell the way I'm not like doing an actual bead down the whole thing. I'm tacking in all the corners in the beginning, and then I do a little over here, then I come over here, and I go there, then there, then there, and then I move on to something else, or I wait. It just takes time, and you have to let the metal cool down. If you weld too much, too fast, you're gonna, one, warp the panel. Not really a big concern with my project, but I didn't want to burn holes through it. So you just gotta slowly move back and forth. And this is what it looks like with the flux core. Now I'm gonna grind it down with the flap disc and smooth all that out before I do the next one. All the panels on this side are put in, and I ground off some of the welds, but you know, you can see I always like to recess my panels just a bit more than the actual sheet metal, because I want to fill it with a little bit of filler, so I never have to grind off the inside of the weld. It's always just the body line. Make sure that weld is smooth enough so you're not seeing it like this. Now the reason I didn't weld off the body line side of the weld here is, I'm not sure how well you can see it on camera, but I think these holes are actually from not just the soft top and the moisture, but something hit this at some point. This panel is like a drag mark all across here. Something hit it, drug across it, and I think that's what made it rust out. But in any case, it's caved in quite a bit. So I didn't really bother with grinding off these welds in here because I'm gonna need to really lift this up quite a bit with filler. Probably at least 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8. So that's why I didn't mess with that. But that panel's in there. And for anybody who cares, on the Hobart Handler 140, I had to turn this guy up to 50 on the wire speed and down to 1 on the voltage just to keep myself from burning through this real thin metal on the car. It's probably 18 gauge, hell, it could even be 22 or 20 gauge, something like that. It's thin stuff. My panels are 16. I like going with a thicker patch panel, but to build up enough wire on the flux, that's what I had to use. So now I'm gonna start messing with this guy, and then I'll probably move on to messing with the sunroof. I may weld it up, but now I'm kind of thinking twice about it. Maybe I'll leave the sunroof. I am not too sure. So let's get into this panel. It's gonna require some bending. I've already got the panel cut out, but I gotta do some trimming and bending, so that'll be fun. Here is this little top guy here. You know, it's weird, I found some lead in here. Somebody had done a lead repair. It was just the way they did body work years ago. And this was also dented in right here. So when I did my grinding, I didn't go terribly low on this because I'm gonna have to fill it with filler. But if you look down the line here, it's pretty darn straight. This is gonna get covered up by some trim. My angle here isn't as like sharp as it could be, but you know, I'm not gonna fill in these holes. I welded this little piece in here. It took a lot of bending and heating and cutting and scoring, but it worked out, and I think it's got, you know, it's got the right-ish curves of the roof, right enough. So that'll be it there. I was gonna weld up that sunroof over there, but I think I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna go through all the pieces, make sure I've got all the pieces for it, because the headliner's still in fine shape. And I think I'll just paint it with the hole and then reinstall the sunroof. Why not? This thing isn't really gonna sit out in the rain much, and it'll be freshly caulked and installed, so I don't think I'm gonna weld that hole up. I'll probably just start hitting this with 40 grit over the entire area that I did all this rust rehab stuff with. That you can see it's all pretty much like dark black now. It's not gonna be shiny metal after all this pitting, but it'll turn black like this, and I think this is enough for me to spray my rust reformer on. I am gonna sand it down first with 40 grit, then I'll do the rust reformer, and then I'll start with the filler and sanding. Okay, this is the stuff I'm going with. I mean, it says on the back, converts the rust so you don't have to sand all the way through the rust. So this is, well, it's turning everything black, which I was hoping it wouldn't, because I have a different one that I've used before that just leaves it clear. But in any case, this is kind of where we're at. The rust is not really orangey anymore. It's pretty much turned this flat black color. So now I'm gonna hit it with this rust reformer, and then we can start our filler process. It'll take forever. The roof came out pretty good. I'm not that worried about it. I mean, the pittings, once you put paint on it, it's really not as bad as it looked or as bad as I thought it was. Sure, the windshield's not great, but all this, It looks fine. We're gonna keep the sunroof. Now it's time for filler, and we can start sanding and prepping.